Megumi fights Toji, but continues to be overwhelmed by his power and speed. The two eventually corner each other and nearly get a deadly hit in, forcing them to back off. Toji recalls back to when he sold Megumi to the Zenins and asks Megumi for his name. When he responds Fushiguro, Toji kills himself by stabbing his own head, satisfied with how he turned out. Meanwhile, Kusakabe has been stalling with Panda patrolling around Shibuya so as not to get into any fights, when they encounter some of Geto's old followers. Their fight is then interrupted by Sukuna and Jogo's battle.
Jogo unleashes his tremendous firepower, absolutely decimating Shibuya, but Sukuna is able to evade and counteract with an incredible intensity, even sparing some time to toy around with the sorcerers caught in the middle trying to escape. Sukuna eventually uses his open technique, revealing his capability to use fire to fight Jogo's head-on. Jogo is promptly burned to death, where he reunites with Hanami and Dagon in a white void as they express their desire to see each other again, and Sukuna compliments Jogo on his strength. Sukuna then reunites with a curse user from his past, Uram, while elsewhere a creature starts to attack Haruta and an unconscious Megumi.
Backed into a corner and at near death by Haruta, Megumi unleashes his final suicide ploy, the ultimate Shikigami of the 10 Shadows and the one the previous users have never been able to subjugate. 8-handled sword divergent Scylla, Divine General Mahoraga. He activates the ritual and is immediately knocked out, with Haruta almost killed until he is saved by Sukuna. Sukuna recognizes the ritual with Megumi trapped in a death-like state until Mahoraga is defeated, and intending to use him for his future plans, faces the Shikigami himself. The two proceed in a devastatingly hard-hitting battle throughout Shibuya, with Sukuna eventually understanding Mahoraga's ability to adapt to attacks.
To destroy it for good, Sukuna activates his domain expansion, Malevolent Shrine, mercilessly slashing everything within a 140-meter radius, turning everything and everyone within that range, as well as Mahoraga itself, into dust. Haruta attempts to escape, but he is also killed, with his luck, courtesy of his cursed technique, finally run out due to his fight with Nanami. With his time almost up, Sukuna quickly takes Megumi outside the city to be healed, before returning to show his work to Yuji. Yuji sees the crater and becomes immensely traumatized, blaming himself for everyone that died by Sukuna's hands. Meanwhile, a half-burned Nanami wanders the subway.
The barely standing Nanami is confronted by a group of transfigured humans and uses his remaining strength to fight them all. After they're defeated, Mahito appears and touches Nanami's back, ready to use idol transfiguration on him, when a vision of Haibara points him toward Yuji, who had just stumbled himself into the encounter. Nanami tells Yuji he's leaving the rest to him as he's killed. An enraged Yuji fights Mahito as the two exchange blows all throughout the subway, with Mahito taking advantage of Yuji's emotional instability to get under his skin. Meanwhile, a double of himself that Mahito had created earlier when hunting for Yuji encounters Nobara out on the streets. After she starts to fight him, he decides to target her in order to drive Yuji further into despair.
After Nida is taken to safety, Nobara re-enters the Veil, not wanting to stay back while the others are still fighting. Nobara fights the Mahito double, who is unable to use idol transfiguration on others like the main body. They discover that Nobara's resonance is actually the perfect counter to Mahito, damaging the soul of both the double and main body still fighting Yuji. Seeing the effects of Nobara's attack rejuvenates Yuji as he pounds away at Mahito. Both Mahitos escape their combatants, luring them into a hallway where they trade places, allowing the real Mahito to catch Nobara off guard and touch her face.
Nobara starts to think back on her past, growing up in her village, befriending a girl named Fumi, who is eventually driven out by the other villagers, which threw Nobara into despair. On the day she left for Tokyo, Nobara promised Fumi that the three of them would reunite again someday. Elsewhere in the present, a workaholic Saori reflects on her previous interactions with the girls. As she sees all of her old friends surrounded in a white void of empty chairs, Nobara tells Yuji her life wasn't bad, as the left side of her face explodes, and her body lies seemingly dead on the ground, to Yuji's horror.